Madam Chair, we live.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Baldwin Park Planning Commission. The date is September 13th, 2023, and the time is 7:03 p.m. Commissioner Pena, can you please lead us in the flag salute?
Into the
Thank you for that. I would like to point out that Commissioner Gonzalez will not be joining us tonight. Do I have a motion to excuse her?
I'll motion to excuse.
I'll second.
Can I please get roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Chair Jen Escobosa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eric Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Mario Maciel Jr.,
Yes.
Commissioner Roman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I will now open oral communications. Anyone wishing to address the commission or anything other than the listed agenda may now come to the podium. Seeing no further interest, I will now declare oral communications closed. There is one item on the consent calendar, and that one item is CP 2303. This request is for consideration of a conditional use permit for a My apologies. We're going to backtrack a couple seconds. My apologies. There is one item, and that is the reviewing the consent action minutes from the August 23rd, 2023 meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes from August 23rd.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Can I please get a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Chair Jen Escobosa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eric Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Mario Maciel Jr.,
Yes.
and Commissioner Roman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, now we will move on to the agenda. And once again, the one case being considered today is CP 2303. This is a request for consideration of a conditional use permit for a proposed Planet Fitness gymnasium with an existing retail building located within the downtown edge of the downtown specific plan. And we have a presentation by our staff.
Thank you. This evening, our presentation will be provided by Assistant Planner Jesus Astorga Rios. Thank you.
Hello. All right. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the Commission. Before you is a conditional use permit CP 23-03 to allow for the use of a proposed Planet Fitness gymnasium within an existing retail building located in the downtown edge area of the city's downtown specific plan. Next slide. The subject property is located north of Ramona Boulevard and east of Larica Avenue at 14121 Ramona Boulevard. The subject site is approximately 42,873 square feet of lot area. The property is located within an existing multi-tenant shopping center. The applicant, Planet Fitness, is proposing to use the existing 13,200 square foot retail space as a gymnasium. Staff would like to advise the Commission at this time that the applicant team is attending via Zoom tonight. Next slide, please. Shown on the current slide is the existing site plan for the property. Staff would like to bring to the Planning Commission's attention that Planet Fitness is proposing to have the facility be open to clients 24 hours a day. For with at least 4 employees on site at any given time, as noted in the operations plan included in your agenda packets. As a part of the project scope, Planet Fitness does intend to enhance the existing lighting within the parking lot area to provide a safer environment for clients who wish to visit the facility during the evening or night hours, as well as install security cameras along the front and rear of the building. Conditions of approval have also been included in the Planning Commission's resolution attached with your agenda packet addressing this item. Next slide, please. This slide shows the proposed improvements to the existing parking lot for the project site. As a part of the project scope, Planet Fitness is proposing to restripe the existing parking lot, as well as install new landscape areas within the parking lot area. The proposed landscaping improvements will include the installation of 8 new 36-inch box trees shown as the circled portions on the slide. 1 new landscape area along the existing parking median, which is shown here. And 4 landscape parking lot strips shown on the bottom portion of the image. Next slide, please. Shown on this current slide are reference images to the types of plants and materials that are proposed for the landscape planter areas. Please be advised that the final selection of plants and materials for the proposed landscape planter areas are subject to change upon formal submittal of plans for landscape plan check review, as noted in conditions P through S of the enclosed Planning Commission packet. Next slide, please. The current slide shows the proposed floor plan for the Planet Fitness facility. The proposed layout for the Planet Fitness facility will include a reception desk, cardiovascular and strength training equipment, such as cardio machines, free weights, weight machines, a designated 30-minute workout area, men's and women's locker rooms with designated restrooms and shower areas, and a hydro massage and tanning section furnished with self-use equipment available for Planet Fitness members. Next slide, please. The applicant is also proposing to enhance the exterior facade of the entrance for the proposed gymnasium. Shown on the current slide are project elevations that show the proposed changes, which are limited to the installation of new signage, repainting of the exterior building, and an increase in the area of the panel windows to allow for increased visibility into the facility from the arcade/parking lot area. Next slide, please. A notice of public hearing was published in the local newspaper on August 31st, 2023. Additional public notices were also mailed to property owners and occupants that live within 300 feet of the project site on that same date. To date, staff have received 1 written public comment from a neighboring property owner requesting that the property owner maintain their property to deter potential homeless encampments and avoid deterioration of the building and/or parking area. This is the comment that was provided to your attention earlier today. No other verbal or written public comments were received at this time. Next slide. In conclusion, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission approve Resolution PC 23-18, approving conditional use permit 23-03. Both planning staff and the project applicant are available for any questions regarding the project. Thank you for your time.
I have a few questions. So I think these questions are directed to the staff. So as far as kind of the landscaping, is that something that's required by the city to improve, or is that on pretty much the applicant's initiative to do so?
It's required with any parking improvements, and they're proposing to do restriping, so that was what triggered that.
And what about the LED lighting?
For the conditions in the reso, that is something that staff had recommended to increase safety. And just a note on the conditions of approval, we did route the conditions of approval and the project, including the operations plan, to our police department for their comments, and they were comfortable with the conditions and the operations plan proposed.
Perfect. And then is there any forgive me, it seems it's implying, or at least I'm interpreting that the lighting is only in the front. Is there any additional sort of lighting or requirements in the back just to deter unhoused encampments, et cetera?
There are additional lighting fixtures proposed in the back. There is a concern with providing too much lighting with respect to glare into adjacent residential.
Gotcha.
And that was
light
what staff and the applicant had talked about in the past. So what's proposed is something that's consistent with our glare standards in the code.
Sure, thank you. And then as far as I know, as far as kind of gyms off the top of my head, I know there's sort of Journey Fitness on Ramona Boulevard. I think you have sort of some other Zumba studios on Main Avenue.
Yes.
How have other sort of tenants or even property managers kind of has there been any sort of feedback just to either the city or police department with having kind of these types of gyms as far as causing issues with neighbors and so forth? Based off of, you know, your anybody else's experience here in the city?
Right. Ron, would you want to answer that?
Yes, good question, Commissioner. Pena, we haven't, since the approval of the fitness, LA Fitness, we have Journey Fitness, we haven't received any major significant complaints. I do recall on the conditions of approval for Journey Fitness where it was prohibited from having outside instruction. But as far as the Zumba studios, we have not received any major complaints.
And then, thank you. And then a follow-up question. I know in part of the resolution, you think the city's asking not for them just to the applicant or at least the business owners to have kind of their doors propped open, especially for kind of flyering or kind of marketing. How's that being and how would that be enforced, in the near future to ensure that's not occurring?
I would assume answer that, Nick, if you'd like.
I think one way that may, they should self-enforce, of course. They understand by this resolution, it's these are the rules to govern by, and if they don't follow the rules, then they could be right back before you to review their CP. But then also quite common that the neighbors are also
Absolutely.
the best eyes and ears of the city. And if they're not being a good neighbor, we're going to hear about it.
Thank you. And then I know we did receive a letter from Reliable Properties from Miss Natalie Lopez. I guess just one question. So I feel sort of the LED lighting is going to be addressed already based off just sort of the resolutions. And I know we're not technically, the city's not a property manager for kind of that center, but I do notice that they've talked about kind of repairing kind of the asphalt. I know there might be some potential liability issues according to the property manager. Will I guess all of those be addressed as a result of them being sort of new tenants and obviously just sort of the new parking structure and the LED lighting and those types of improvements?
Right. So with respect to the improvements to the parking lot area, aside from the landscaping and the improvements to the light fixtures, they are proposing to do a restriping to be ADA compliant, as well as no, I don't think they're doing it. But ideally, they are doing improvements to the parking lot that would make it more in compliance than it is right now.
Okay. And then, thank you. And then I know they also talked about just sort of painting, I guess being it consistent, I think especially on sort of the rear. I guess that's something that the city doesn't sort of delve in as long as it's sort of generally consistent with the plan. Is that right?
Like the painting of the colors of the building?
Forgive me. So I do see that there's a note here that says the entire rear of this building must be painted with one matching building color and maintained from here on. I guess I'm interpreting as it's not currently the same color, or is it probably based off of the graffiti?
Oh, right. That condition is specifically to deter graffiti. That's what it's for.
I'm sorry, but who's putting that condition? Is that the property managers or is that the city who's putting that?
The city.
Okay, thank you. No additional questions. Yeah.
I had a question. I know that the spaces of parking that were counted or were spaces that actually are also utilized by El Super and other rendering businesses around.
Mm.
How do we specify the amount of spaces that are to be available for this particular client? Let's just say
Mhm.
when we already know that El Super takes up most of those that we're already counting.
So the site has shared parking with the surrounding shopping center properties. And with respect to parking, when staff was looking into that inquiry, we were looking at parking impacts as far as hours of operation and conflict with other businesses. And from what we've observed, most of the time when the surrounding retail businesses, aside from the anchor tenants, because they have later hours of operation, but the smaller retail tenants, they close up earlier. And Planet Fitness noted in their operations plan that their peak hours are usually in the evening. So that would offset the potential parking demand that would occur for the entire shopping center. And to answer your question again, that is shared parking, so it's not specifically for each use. But when we did look at parking with the site itself, it was underparked when they had 82 spaces and available, and they were only required 70.
I just see that there might be an issue with parking during our peak hours.
Right.
I used to get my hair cut right next door at Ramona Barbershop.
Mm.
And I know for a fact that I had to park literally ways down from in front of that business.
Mhm.
So I know that most of those are utilized mostly for El Super. 99-cent store tends to have their own right in front of theirs. But I do see that we might potentially have an issue with how much parking is available during the peak hour.
Mm.
Besides that, I did see in the note for Reliable Properties that they're concerned about the trash can that might be utilized for this tenant. Can we stipulate that they have locks on this container? I don't know if we're allowed to even say that they're supposed to have enclosures, but can we at least stipulate that their containers have lids and locks?
They do have an existing trash enclosure to the rear of the property.
Uh-huh.
As far as the maintenance of the enclosure, I'm not too sure what state it is right now. But as a part of the plan check process, we will work with the applicant to make sure that the new or existing waste enclosure is brought up to code.
Perfect. I have no further questions. Thank you.
I do have one question. Well, let me prepare. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I'll try not to breathe so much. Has the applicant had a chance to review this letter that we're saying from Reliable Properties?
Yes, we did send the applicant a redacted version of the letter, and they are aware of it.
Okay.
With respect to the applicant's response to the letter, I would defer that to the applicant team during public comment.
I don't have a question, but more of a comment, but thank you, because some of the questions I had, you did cover in your presentation, so thank
Thank
you
you.
for that.
All right. If there are no further questions from staff, I will now declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this matter, either in support or against of this project?
Madam Chair, before we begin, probably be best to hear from the applicant.
Okay.
prior to hearing public comment.
Let's do that.
Name is Sergio. I'm with Reliable Properties.
Oh, hear from the applicant.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sure the applicant is joining us via Zoom.
That's correct. V, Duke, or Enrique, if you guys would like to join or provide public comment, now would be the time.
Sure. Good
Oh,
evening, everybody. Sorry.
Please introduce yourself to the commission, please.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Duke Tran. I'm with the architecture engineering firm, representing on behalf of Planet Fitness. Good evening to everybody. Yes, we have reviewed the letter, the indacted letter here, and we've read through it and hear the concerns. I mean, as far as the graffiti painting, yeah, I mean, if there are going to be graffiti, obviously the owner, Planet Fitness will take care of it and do whatever they have to do to repaint the building, so it looks back to their original state. As far as the repairing of the asphalt and the waviness, yeah, for what we are proposing, we're planning to do new landscaping there based on the city requirements, but we also are going to re-slurry and probably fix some of the waviness, and then give it a new slurry and striping. So the parking in front of us within our property limits will look brand new again. And then as far as the ADA path of travel, yeah, for anything that is within our property, yeah, we'll definitely make sure that it is compliant to the latest and greatest ADA code. LED lights for the area, yeah, so we are planning, as discussed during the process of this, to replace the LED, the lights there to kind of all match the same. And then if we have to add more, because right now we don't know until we get to the next phase to do the photometrics. We don't know if it meets the current foot candles, but if it doesn't, we'll add more heads as necessary. And in the back, I think Jesus has already kind of explained that we will add more lights, but we also will comply to the non-glare requirements of the city due to the neighbors. Other than that, the only thing that I did want to clarify that I think it was a typo is the employees. Planet Fitness operates minimum wise is 2 employees that runs the shift, so it's not 4, it's 2, and we hope that's not an issue. Other than that, that's all the comments we have.
Thank you, Mr. Tran. A question for our staff. So again, just I know in section 3, the where it says that the staff should be at least 4 at a time. How was that determined by Planet Fitness, or was that determined by a formula that the department uses?
Right. So that was the number that was provided in the operations plan. And then with respect to Mr. Tran's comment, that was something that was brought up as far as a potential revision to the conditions of approval. So if that is something that the commission would consider, then it would be a revision to the COAs.
Would that revision occur today? Okay, thank you. And then as far as Forgive me, as far as, bear with me as I'm trying to ask this question, but does the city have a requirement or just sort of a type of rubric to determine the number of employees per the number of patrons in a gymnasium type business?
No, that's not something that we would have. I think some of the considerations that we had when we're doing the analysis is that this isn't a 24-hour business. This is one that's going to attract customers when there's not many other people around. So there is a bit of a security concern. We want to make sure there's enough employees to make sure everything is safe. And so when we received the operation statement, this call for 4 employees, that is the information that we provided to our police department and got feedback from. And so there's that's the feedback we've received for employees.
Sure, but my understanding is that the feedback was only based off of 4 for the police department. I'm wondering how that would look like for 2 employees.
It was.
I-
The commission may
do-
want to consider that to run that by the police department to see if they would be comfortable with an operations for 24-hour business with only 2 employees. That's not something staff knows. That's not
Of course.
something we've checked
Yeah.
because just learned.
Yeah, I think I'd feel more comfortable having our police departments provide their feedback. On that note, Mr. Tran, just kind of a follow-up question on kind of, I know there's another Planet Fitness, and I guess in the city of Covina, I think there's one in El Monte or in kind of that area. Do you also have 2 employees at a time? During that 24-hour, well, at least during the shift, I should say.
Yeah, actually, I have Enrique, who is part of Planet Fitness operation. And he would be far more
Of course.
qualified to answer that question. Enrique, are you on?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am on.
Okay.
Hi, this is Enrique Sanchez. I am the Director of Operations for this Planet Fitness franchise. 2 employees is standard for our protocol. That doesn't mean that we only have 2 employees. Sometimes we can have up to 4, sometimes even 6, depending on peak hours. But the minimum during our slow times is at times 2 employees. With regard to our El Monte location, there are times where there's 2 employees, as well as with regard to our West Covina location. Our 2 busiest locations are the one in Los Angeles and in Burbank. And there are times throughout that shift where there are a minimum of 2 employees, and that has not been an issue. That provides us enough staff to provide security and assistance to our customer service, at the same time being cognizant of the labor hours.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
I did have a question just for my own clarification. When we're referring to the wavy. Sorry, I just lost it. The wavy asphalt, what does that mean? Does that mean that the asphalt is not even, that there's potholes?
It's my understanding that it would be some wear in the asphalt will over time and can make it less than perfectly flat. A little wear and grooves and in the driveway. So I believe that's what's being referred to.
If I may, wavy asphalt comes from the rear being used as loading dock for 99-cent store and for El Super. But you have 18-wheelers coming through there, and so you absolutely are going to get tire marks that create that little waviness in the back. So I'm sure this is what they're referring to. They want to make sure that those get repaired.
All right, thank you for that. Are there any other questions from the commission for the applicant? It appears that our discussion has concluded. So now we will open public hearing. Again, this is your opportunity for anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this matter.
My name is Sergio. I'm with Reliable Properties. We are the property management company. We manage the address anchored by the El Super and the 99 cents only store adjacent to the 14121 Ramona Boulevard, which is discussed to be a Planet Fitness. Please know that we have been having very difficult time getting in touch with any ownership or Planet Fitness property in regards to maintenance and outstanding issues. We have been having a serious homeless encampment issue located at the rear of this 14121 Ramona Boulevard building. We want to ensure that part of the PUP is that Planet Fitness locks and cages their trash enclosure to avoid homeless living inside their trash enclosure, low enough so that people cannot get inside of the trash enclosure and or jump on a roof from the top of the proposed cage. Please be advised that the rear of the store has had a lot of previous graffiti and has been painted with multiple slightly rectangular tones. The entire rear of this building must be painted with one matching color and maintained from now out so that the property can have a proper appearance. Graffiti has to be removed within 3 days, and there has to be graffiti paint company on contract to go out there and paint over the graffiti with matching paint fairly routinely or at least weekly. Also, this tenant must repair the asphalt waviness, slurry, seal, and stripe all the asphalt to get rid of tripping hazards, potholes in order to avoid potential liabilities. Further, they need to do the ADA path of travel as part of the shopping center with ramps and rails as needed. Kindly note that the majority of this parking lot in the shopping center are LED. We would like that Planet Fitness tenant to ensure all the parking lights are LED in front of their store to match the existing LED fixtures. Thank you in advance for your prompt attention. Should you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact our office. Phone number is area code 323-653-3777. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like you, if you can please state your last name for the record.
Sergio Lomeli.
Sergio Lomeli.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Lomeli, one question for you. Have some of these concerns, because I see that you guys are the property managers for El Super and 99 Cent Store. Have you guys addressed this with the actual property owner?
We have, yes.
You have?
The homeless you mentioned?
Yeah, with the
Yes, we have.
homeless, with the graffiti, the asphalt, because correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this is something that actually pertains to the landlord.
It does. We do maintain the parking lot in front of El Super and the 99 cents. We have done work for the asphalt and got it up to ADA compliancy.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Lomeli.
You're welcome.
Were there any other questions from the commission? I also did want to give the applicant a chance to respond to Mr. Lomeli's testimony.
Madam Chair, if we can make sure that we have all the public comment and then we can then proceed forward.
Thank you, Mr. Lomeli.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience or on the call that would like to testify for or against this project? just please come up and state your name for the record?
My name is Natalie Thielander. I just have a few questions. In regard to them occupying the space, what is the plans for the homeless encampment that has been forming there? Where are they being moved to? What are the plans to not displace them? Additionally, what are their contributions to the community? What are they going to give back to us? It sounds like they're not offering a lot of employment for us folks here. But what are they giving back to us? Also, it does sound like they're only fixing just their part of the parking lot, which I understand. I don't know if you guys have ever been to that parking lot. That parking lot's pretty bad. So are we going to require all the additional surrounding businesses to also fix that? And how long is that going to put them out? How is that going to affect them economically? Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Absolutely. Ms. Natalie, if you can spell your last name.
THE Lander. And LANDER.
Mark, just checking in to ensure that we don't have anyone trying to make a public comment over the Zoom. Okay. All right, so seeing no further interest, I will close public comment now. And we can go back to the applicant. Yeah. Yes. Again, wanting to give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any of the concerns that have been shared tonight.
Sure. This is Duke again. Just regarding the comments around like improvements to the site, you know, as I don't know if you guys maybe you do, but the site is this site is actually divided into multiple property, a lot more than you typically see in a shopping center of this nature. So where we have our scope limits, our property line, honestly, that's the only areas that we can touch because we, even as tenants, you know, we have to go through the landlord to improve certain things. But in going through this tenant improvement process, yeah, we have agreed to take care of the parking lots within our property line. We can't go past that because we don't have permission. I just want to make that clear so people understand that there is a legal limit here that we can't touch or go beyond. And it also goes for, you know, the path of travel. Yeah, so anywhere in front of or within our property that has relate to, you know, the ADA path of travel, the handicap, the striping, the clearances. Yeah, we are fully aware of that, and we fully make sure that it's all in compliant to code, which we have always and will always intended to do. And as far as the graffiti, I don't know. I'm just speaking on the behalf of the owner. He couldn't make it today, but I don't know how intense it is there. But I do know that, yeah, if it does get graffitied, yeah, they will take care of it one way or another. I don't know about the timeline of 3 days, if that is a rule or a law of some nature, but you know, obviously Planet Fitness is here to be good neighbors to everybody and kind of support a you know, a good environment for all businesses. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to check back in with the commission. Just, are there any further comments, any other questions?
Yeah, and I think the public commenter had also mentioned about sort of the unhoused neighbors. Again, I'm not sure if that's a question for the applicant or even for the city, what kind of ends up happening in that situation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Peña. Madam Chair, Commissioner, in response to some of the comments that were made, wanted to make clear that at the commission's discretion, based on some of the items that were noted with respect to improvements to the parking lot, lighting, trash enclosure, graffiti, can be addressed within the resolution. So the commission can make recommendations to add to the existing conditions of approval for that. I don't know right off the top of my head. I know that graffiti is required to be removed within 48 hours. That is in the municipal code. To the extent of removal of graffiti, we could include a condition of approval within the resolution to indicate that graffiti be removed in accordance with the municipal code. We do work with property owners. We have been working with shopping centers throughout the city to address graffiti. Typically ask in good faith effort that they remove it within 24 hours. So we have worked in particular with this shopping center and specifically the homeless encampment that was indicated as a couple of weeks ago. There was a homeless encampment that formed at the rear of the Planet Fitness. We did successfully make contact with the property owner and did submit a agreement. There's an active agreement with our police department for no trespassing. The transients that were there were offered services for relocation, provide housing assistance, social services. Some did take advantage of the services, some others did not. But the city, in partnership with working with the ownership, was successful in being able to relocate that encampment. Unfortunately, again, due to the vacancy of that site, unfortunately, there with minimal activity, you begin to see, just like we've experienced in other areas of the city, you begin to see homeless encampments form because of that. But now with the incoming business coming in and with the proposed improvements of lighting and addressing the trash enclosure, we feel that the homeless encampment will be, we don't foresee any issues of that nature happening, but I'm happily to announce that we did address that. And there isn't a homeless encampment there now. There was. So I just wanted to address those comments that were made to the commission. Happy to answer any further questions.
I did have another question. Is it typical for commercial properties of this size
Oh, yes.
to ask incoming tenants to take on the financial cost and the efforts of making all of these corrections to the properties?
So in my experience, there's this term called there has to be a nexus, right? So we cannot require tenant to be responsible for improving the any more than what's within their boundary, within their property. We can make suggestions based on operations, just as staff has shared with us tonight, and working in good faith effort with the applicant. But we do encourage that when we see parking lots that are in need of improvement, we will address that during the review of the application.
And I would like to add, this may be something where Duke may want to add as well. I think Mr. Lomelli, the commenter, also left, so he may provide additional background there. But early on in the project stage, that is something that we brought to the applicant's attention, and they were in attempts to communicate with the surrounding property owners to see if they can come to some kind of agreement to do landscaping on the parking area shopping center wide. But as I recall, there were difficulties in trying to get that agreement in order. And that's why the plans shown only show improvements done to the Planet Fitness portion of the property.
To add to Jesus's comments too, unfortunately, there isn't a reciprocal maintenance or reciprocal parking maintenance agreement within the shopping center. We have identified a staff in the city shopping centers that don't have those agreements. So when we do see development take place, this is a use. So they're voluntarily working with the city to make those improvements. and commend them for that. But when we see development, that is the opportunity where staff addresses the maintenance of the rest of the shopping center. In that case, we're going to keep an eye on the shopping center for future development to close that gap. So that way the rest of the parking lot on the shopping center get addressed. And that way there's a reciprocal parking and maintenance agreement. But unfortunately, this is not the only one in the city that has that issue, but we're hoping that with this occurring, that it's going to act as a catalyst, that the other owners will then improve their parking lot as well.
Well, and let me try to ask this question a little bit more clearly. And I do want to express my gratitude for the applicant engaging with the city and taking this on a voluntary basis. But I guess for my own education, what I'm asking is, these things that need to be corrected have already been there. And so is it typical in a situation like this with the large commercial properties that the new tenant takes on the burden of making the corrections and maintenance for things that have already been there?
Yes, as a new tenant coming in and now taking responsibility for the operations of that site, typically you will see slurry seal, just as the applicant indicated, slurry seal restriping. But one thing that they did go above and beyond and working with us, because we saw a lack of landscaping. There is a lack of tree canopy in that shopping center. So they went ahead and said, we're gonna add some landscape islands and plant some additional trees. But that is something that they did not have to do. At minimum, what I have seen is where operators will say, hey, we're gonna just we're gonna slurry seal the parking lot, restripe. And then if there is existing landscaping, they'll go ahead and replace any dead or destroyed landscaping. But in this case here, they're proposing trees and landscape planters within the parking lot. It just depends. It depends. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, checking in with my fellow commissioners. Is there any further discussion?
To staff, in regards to that graffiti in the back, I know once they come in, they're gonna be doing a touch up on the entire building, right? Or am I incorrect on that?
So as it stands now, they're proposing to paint the front elevation. The commission may wish to consider adding a requirement or a condition of approval that says that they're going to be painting all sides of the building, including the rear elevation. And that would cover, I think, at least one of the comments made by Reliable Properties.
Yes.
I will add also, Commissioner Maciel, probably be good to ask the applicant if they're willing to, address the painting of the rear of the building.
Okay. Is the applicant still on?
Yeah, this is Duke. I'm gonna speak a little bit out loud here, but this is our typical protocol for this client. We typically paint the entire building to give it a fresh look.
Perfect.
Because the branding is important to us, and we do want to make it look good. Yeah, so it will get, and I think it should get a brand new paint, obviously the front and the back, but for the most part, every existing shell building that we go, we paint it to the brand color, or the center requirement colors. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Duke.
Yeah, no problem.
No further questions.
So I just want to go ahead and just address that just based off of the resolution. It's still listed as requirement for at least 4 employees at any given time. I know that we still haven't received sort of the feedback from our police department for 2 employees at any given time. I'm wondering, if the commission feels comfortable, at least for this specific section, if there's kind of the mechanism where we can approve it with the condition of feedback from our police department, positive feedback, I guess, for approval. Is that possible?
Um,
We can't, yeah, my advice would be that we would have to bring that back. Yeah, we'd have to bring that back because our police department, we only shared the information that was given to us, the police, but it would probably be best to share that with them so that way they know that.
Sure. Is there any, I guess, feedback on other fellow commissioners on the topic?
In regards to the employment of 4 to 2, I don't see a real concern with that, only because I do know off of experience, most gymnasiums, what they do is they do have the 2 employees that are in charge of opening, closing, and then on top of that, you have instructors that come in periodically for fitness, personal training. I know they're not employees, but it's people that come in that are representing Planet Fitness as instructors. But it's truly your wish whether you want to proceed with getting approval from the police department if you want to go that route.
Also want to make one comment, Commission. In my experience, I have not seen from security, from PD require additional staff members for the operation of gymnasiums based on the expertise and operation of the facility itself. I don't foresee any major issues if just based on the correction that the applicant made, going back to PD and notifying them that it was a error and that they operate based on 2 employees. But again, it's at the discretion of the commission.
And I'll just add in my experience working and approving gyms in other jurisdictions that above 1 might be in a problem, but 2, I haven't had a negative comment back from a police department about that. That's just my own professional experience.
Hi, all. Just wanted to ask if I can provide some feedback and further clarification on that, if I may. So again, this is Enrique Sanchez. I am representing the client right now. I'm Director of Operations for the group. Just wanted to point out that usually the minimum of 2 employees is during our really odd hours, like whether it's like midnight through 6 a.m. That's really the only time there's 2 employees. The other times there's for sure 3 or more. And a lot of times our managers are on site. As mentioned, sometimes the fitness trainer would be on site. So it's typically like the odd hours where there's close to like 5 through 10 members working out at the time where there's not really much oversight needed. I don't have much comments with regard to the graffiti just because I don't really deal with that as far as my job scope. However, I do want to add that with us being 24/7, typically foot traffic with members coming in and out does tend to lessen suspicious activity just due to the fact that it deters away that activity because they see people coming in and out. And then there was a second comment brought up with what does Planet Fitness, what can they provide to the community? And I just want to provide 3 quick points that I have, one of which is usually community involvement. We, as a group, speaking on behalf of the client, we actually have a budget for community involvement. I personally will be attending a luncheon with our Burbank mayor with that location. We have a trunk or treat event with the El Monte Police Department. We have a 10K race with the LAPD for the Foothill Division over in Sylmar. So those are just some of the examples of the type of community involvement that we do. So we do really try to support our communities. We've sponsored high schools before. Employment, I know there was a concern that there wasn't going to be too much employment. Again, just want to reiterate that the minimum of 2 employees is not typically what's going on, but from time to time, there are those minimal shifts. Typically, we have more employees. Some of our gyms have up to 25 employees. I think the one with our highest one is 28 over at our Pasadena location. And then just overall, it just provides an opportunity for health and fitness at an affordable rate. We're very known for our $10 membership. That's kind of like our biggest marketing that we do. LA Fitness does not offer 24 hours, 7 gymnasiums. So that's kind of like where we differ from them. Planet Fitness caters more towards like the general public. We're not specific towards bodybuilding or powerlifting. We're more for like the common folk. And that's really what our target audience is. And just the last comment I want to provide is our El Monte location, which is the one nearest this location, I believe, has 13,000 active members. So that's a pretty substantial amount. We do have like a community feel in that gym. And I feel like we can do the same for this Baldwin Park location. Just want to provide that feedback. Thank you.
Apologies. I do have one more clarifying question. The 2 employees, is that regular, and forgive me for not knowing all the rules, but is that regular gym staff or does that also include housekeeping?
We do not have housekeeping. We do all the cleaning in-house. So I guess to answer the questions, no, that does not include the housekeeping.
Yeah, I don't have any additional questions. I think it's clarified my concerns.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Right. Being no more discussion, I will accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the
my
CPU with the recommendations that we put forward.
Mario, my apologies. I gotta backtrack again. Checking once again, is there any other public communications? Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, so we will close public communications. For the applicant, do you feel like you've had the opportunity to address any concerns or all the concerns?
Yes, this is Duke. I think we both, Enrique and I, hopefully we answered everybody's question and kind of addressed even our own concerns. But I think the one thing, just not to beat a dead horse here on the employee thing, but it's just the verbiage. We just want to be very fully transparent and accurate and honest about it. It's just the word minimum 2 employee. At all times, we'll always have minimum 2 employees. And like Enrique is saying, during peak hours, obviously it can be up to 6 or even more employees. It's just that they do this specifically for the economics. If they're, doing the wee hours where you have very few people, 5, 10 people, really you could probably run 2 people, and which is more than enough to manage the gym. But obviously peak hours, there will be a lot more employees. And then on top of that, they also have trainers. But that's just really us trying to be very accurate to the way it's written, and then just being transparent about it. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so seeing no further interest, I will now officially declare public hearing closed. Coming back to my commission once again, are there any final comments, concerns? All right. All right. So at this time, I will accept a motion.
I'll motion to approve the CPU with the recommended improvements that we've set forward. The repainting of the entire building. The trash cans having lids and locks. The 2 employees
At minimum.
minimum.
Lighting
And the lighting, please,
and removal of graffiti.
and removal of graffiti. That is my motion.
And I'll second it.
Can I please have a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Chair Jen Escobosa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eric Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Mario Maciel Jr.,
Yes.
Commissioner Roman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. The Planning Commission has voted to find the proposed project is exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act in the state CEQA guidelines. Specifically, the project is categorically exempt from CEQA under guidelines section 15332, since the proposed use conforms to the underlying zoning and is within a completely urbanized. And the commission has also voted to adopt resolution PC 2318 approving 2303, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Baldwin Park approving a conditional use permit for a gymnasium within an existing retail building located within the downtown edge area of the downtown specific plan, more specifically at address 14121 Ramona Boulevard. I do want to turn to our staff and ask if there's any reports of officers.
I'm sorry, was there a roll call on the motion?
Yes,
There
It was,
there was
okay.
a roll call.
I'd just like to add, Madam Chair, that the item is final unless appealed within the 10-day appeal period. Thank you.
All right, we did have a planning commissioner training presentation. But before we get to that, I wanted to confirm that, are there any reports of officers?
No reports at this time. We don't have a planning commission meeting, any items for the next one. So we'll let you know, but there's nothing scheduled for the next meeting.
All right, so at this time, we will continue the planning commissioner training presentation until the next scheduled meeting. If there are no further comments from the commission or staff, I will now accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll second. Oh, is that a motion? I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Jen Escobosa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Eric Pena,
Yes.
Commissioner Mario Maciel Jr.,
Yes.
and Commissioner Roman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned at 8:05 PM.